because I have some very special people on tonight. I'm going to name them because you already know, because you've seen, if you're here, you already have seen our wonderful publicity. But Herman Matthews is here, an extraordinary drummer. Leland Sklar, who I call Lee Sklar, and so did many, an incredible bass player. Josh Scalise is here, who's also an incredible drummer here in Nashville. I have I know. So this is important because Mentors Among Us is something I thought of just about a month ago, because I would not be anywhere if it weren't from the mentors in my life, in my musical life, really in all of the teachers in my life. And before we go any further, I have to give a big shout out to Ned Albright. Ned Albright is the reason why these people are all here tonight, every single one of them. And while the artists who are watching tonight, because I've gotten some inboxes from a lot of people who are excited to hear from you guys, they're here because Ned, in a moment in my experience many years ago in 2007, Ned came in with Gardner Night, and they said, you know what, let's put this together. We'll do some music. We'll do some. It was an interesting moment because I'd come out of musical theater and classical theater, and I wasn't expecting to do an album, but there were some really very valuable, heartfelt moments in my life that I needed to express musically. And for the grace of God, I had Ned and Gardner come in and say, you know, we're going to come in around you and we're going to help you and embrace you in this moment. And in that came Lee and Herman. And had that not happened, I would not know you, Josh. So thank you, Ned Albright, because I know Ned is going to be in the room soon. And that is why Mentors Among Us is so very valuable. We all have something to give to someone else. And in the music world, these particular people have blessed me. And so I want to bless everybody watching today with their incredible talent and their knowledge. And so I will tell you first. So Josh knows that I've met Josh in Nashville around this wonderful musical scene here.
Yep, absolutely.
Ode to the fun here.
Yeah.
And I met Lee and Herman, and now I've done an interview with Lee, so I'll try to make this briefly so you don't hear this 20,000 times. But during the album Love Me Out Loud, that was my first album, I was out in Los Angeles and I was really green. And Herman may not even know this is humorous. I was absolutely on time. No, I was absolutely late coming into the session, but because I wanted to make sure that I had 3-ring binders, and you're going to get a kick out of this, Josh, with all of the lyrics, because the lyrics were important to me.
Right.
And a 3-ring binder with everything for all of the artists. And I hadn't told Ned that yet, but also there was some sort of delay. I'm not sure what happened. This was before GPS. What does that say? So before I could get to them, there was some sort of a roadblock. And I remember feeling incredibly anxious because I knew Herman Matthews and Leland Sklar and Dean Parks to be extraordinary people in their world of music. And I was very green and just coming into this moment with just a lot of emotion, just a lot of gut. And so I showed up with all of these 3-ring binders, and Ned looked at me and he goes,
"Love it.
Why did you bring the lyrics?" I said,
"They don't care."
I said, "I think it's really important that they have this." He said, "They just want to listen to the demos, Cat." Right, exactly. They're like, they're just listen. We're gonna. I was so embarrassed by the moment. I was late, but I was nervous, but I was so grateful. So Herman, Lee, thank you guys. You guys went through my challenge.
That's awesome.
And we love you. It was wonderful. We had such a good time. Yeah,
it was.
That's so good.
It was a funny moment. So I will say to the people watching, the part that I remember most is when we were just going over the basic demo. So for the artists who are coming up, who are like myself, who know a couple of chords on the guitar, but you have a lot to say. Don't be embarrassed to sit around a lot of musicians at the table and allow them to bring their glory and their essence to it. Don't let that hold you back because you're afraid that you aren't good enough. Because I will say that to watch Dean and Herman and Lee at work, and Ned, Ned had already done his work on it, but you guys were new to it, and just to take such very basic work of mine, but a lot of heartfelt journey through panic disorder. You guys just really, it was masterful to see what you did with something so simple. So for all of the artists watching, when I say mentors among us, I really mean listen to what Herman and Lee and Josh talk about, because you're going through an experience, and it's not that you're not good enough. You literally just look up and have these artists help you create some incredible dynamic energy out of what's going on in your heart. So I will say that. Thank you guys for that. That was very valuable to me.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, before we go any further, Leah, how did you and Herman meet? We met, but how did you guys meet?
I believe it was on a Richard Marx record.
It was.
And I remember going in, I think at A&M, maybe in the big room. And we walked in, and Herman had long dreads at that point and stuff, and it was great. And we just walked in, and he's just one of these guys that the minute you're around him, you're engaged with him.
Yeah.
There's a vibe and a personality. And the minute he hit his first backbeat, I just went, I want to have this man's baby. Yeah, he's a beautiful, beautiful musician. Big ears, big chops, and big heart. And I forever am grateful of that. And I was thrilled when Ned called me to do the project with you, Kat, and Herman was on it. And Dean, there's hardly another guitar player in the world I'd rather play with than Dean Parks. So
Right.
it was really a wonderful, wonderful experience. And if I can just say one thing really quick, an issue that I've seen, and you were talking about, your simple demos that you came in with, or your songs. One of the biggest banes at this point is demoitis, where people all have their little home studio and they make demos that sound like finished records. Then they bring them into the studio and expect us to better it. And they've just spent 6 months working on a song that we've got to improve in an hour. Try to simplify your demos to the point where it can give the guys you hire room to bring their personalities and their ideas to it too, rather than saying, well, that's not exactly how I did it on the demo. And the next thing you know, you're just copying the demo. And so that's just when you were talking, that hit me.
Yeah. The feeling is mutual with Leland. When I first met him, I was a bit awestruck. I really was. What I'm saying, here's Leland Sklar. And now, of course, all of my friends, all my drummer friends, they're like saying, oh, wow, he played with Billy Cobham. And that was cool. That was wonderful. The Spectrum record was, hey, but my thing was that, here he is. Here's the guy who played with Carole King. Here's the guy who played with Jackson Brown. Here's the guy. When I would turn on, my whole thing is that when I turn on the radio, that's the music I heard. I didn't hear drum solos. I heard nice grooves, musical, I heard that. And so when Leland walked into the room, I was like, this is the cat, And so when we did that thing with Richard Marx, there was a certain amount of respect that was there. That was, it just did my heart good. And playing with someone who wasn't necessarily trying to be the best bass player that he could be. Same with me, not trying to be the best drummer. We were trying to be the best musicians for the project, and so my love for him it overflows.
I got to say, that's something that I've noticed, and I'll interject real quickly. Sitting at the table with all four of you, Dean, Lee, Herman, and Ned, you all had the most respect and love for one another. And I'm
fell
sure
for that.
but no, listen, I fell for that. That's exactly. Well, you know, they do say I am. Listen, no, this is important because beyond your instruments, beyond what you do, the love you have for each other and respect you have for your talent and who you are as people was just, it was palpable. I will say that I want people who are watching right now as mentors among us, I want you to hear that incredible respect and love for one another and lifting of one another is so very, very valuable. The one thing that was not at the table at all was ego. You were extraordinary. You've already reached a certain point in your life. You're extraordinary at what you do. And when I say this, people, we're talking, they mentioned Richard Marx. I will say Tom Jones. I will say for Herman, I will say James Taylor, Toto, Phil Collins. Oh my gosh, Judith Owen. I'm going to talk about Teresa in a minute, Teresa James, and Kenny Loggins. These are people who have, and that's not, I didn't even mention Dean Park's stuff, but I will say that you could have ego. You didn't. And why I'm saying this is because I've seen the LA experience, the Miami experience, and the Nashville experience. And what's really valuable is sitting at the table musically and not having that ego show up. It's having, you have ego enough to know that you're good at what you do and you bring to the table something really unique and awesome. But that's where it ended. You guys were just so respectful of each other and brought so much love and awesomeness that darn it all. I'm
Oh, we knew you were paying for lunch.
Listen, I pay for Mexican food, and that is the last time I will ever pay for Mexican food. Thank you, Gardner Knight.
I gotta say though, in all honesty, when it comes to
I was in control room, okay? Nope. That's all I have to say. Mexican food control room after lunch. Done. Yes, Josh?
I was just going to touch on that fact of not only did they just have the utmost respect for each other, just walking in and meeting each other, but there has to be something magical about the personalities meshing and then the musicality meshing together. I think that really has to bring the magic out more so than if it was just one or the other, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think that's really cool that you guys are like basically just, you know, as they call it, the rhythm section locked in, like you guys locked in personality wise before anything. Yeah. And then it was just that much easier to get in and be like, all right, let's lay down the groove, you know?
Well, the reputation that Lee and also Dean, what they had was, you know, they would walk into any situation and they would be prepared for it. Mm-hmm. They would play the right stuff for the right song. I mean, you know, you couldn't be any more different than, you know, Billy Cobham and James Taylor, say, for instance. But when you sit back and listen to the bass line, you're like, yeah, okay, that's perfect. You know, he's playing exactly the right thing for the right song. Yeah. So so for me, meeting these guys for the first time, although I was the one who suggested these guys to Ned.
That's right. You were. You're like, although, let me just ... This
yeah, right, there you go. You know, the thing for me and the kind of musician that I want to be is that guy that would kind of walk in, you know, kind of like the Earl Palmer, you know, of the session, and walk in and be able to play all styles and be able to read the charts or lack of charts and make music out of it. And be the right guy for the session, and to play with a bass player who, you know, like for me, I like for the bass player to kind of sit on my shoulders as far as placing it in the track. Okay. You know? And Leland just kind of, you know, with me kind of sort of weaving in and out, Leland was right there on top. Just, okay, I got you. I'm right there with you. And the same thing with Dean, you know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
and then we juggled, and then okay.
You jumped. One of the things I've kind of lived by in my career is when that phone rings and you pick it up, you have two options. You can say yes or no, and if you say yes, that comes with obligations too. And I don't, every time I show up for a project, I treat it like I've just joined a band. I'm not hired help to work on a record, just to be a hired gun. I really try to get deep inside with the artist and understand what they're about. And I treat it as though I've just joined their group and this is my album too. And I think that that's really important because I don't really look at this so much as just another gig. And I may hear the stuff and go, nobody's ever going to hear this. It's not ever going to make it. But I'm going to give it my all every time I walk in the door, because first off, you said, yes, you owe this to the artist. And this may be their one and only chance at making a record. And I'm leaving and going to another session. So I want to make sure that their experience is really the penultimate experience that I can give them. And I think I hate when I'm on sessions and like guys don't go and listen to playbacks. I go, what the hell are you doing? How do you know what's going on? They're sitting on their phone or something as soon as the track's over. You go, no, go and make suggestions. I always tell everybody my ideas are etched in mud. I don't really, I throw out ideas. I don't care if they don't like them, but I want to be engaged and involved beyond my bass part.
Right.
And I think it's important as a studio musician to really dedicate yourself every time you walk in the door to making that the best project it can possibly be, and not just kind of looking at your watch going, oh, I gotta get out of here. This sucks.
Right, exactly.
Right.
That's actually just an aha moment for me versus Nashville, and no disrespect to Nashville, because obviously there are a lot of great musicians.
Yeah.
That is one thing that all three of you did. All of you said, nah, no, you know what, let's go back and let me take another go round. Dean said, nah, Dean took it home.
Yeah.
I mean, this was all basic stuff. This is basically nothing, extraordinarily challenging. But I remember we did, you did the mouth, Herman, shoot, what was it for? I'd never seen it
a
done.
mouth percussion thing or something
Yes,
like that?
it was, yeah, but you're like, nah, let's do it again. No, and I thought, well, that was perfect. You're like, nope, let's do it again. Let's take one more. You know what? Quite frankly, I have not heard a lot of that in Nashville. I've been around a lot of musicians in Nashville, and I will say that I've found that more with the three of you. And I'm not saying Nashville versus LA, but
well, that's not necessarily a real LA thing either. This is all individual approach to things.
I know that Nashville is sort of on a clock. I mean, your first sessions are at 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. 10 a.m. Me, I'm just rolling out of bed, and my drums are getting there, and my session always starts at noon. But still, you got 10 o'clock. You have the next session, and then you have the next session. You guys have to hit it and quit it by a certain time in Nashville, and maybe that's part of the deal. I don't know, but like Lee said, here in LA too, you got those guys who really don't. I'm not saying they don't give a damn. They're just they're looking to get in there and they're looking to get out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel completely spoiled.
No, it's just everybody's got their own approach, and that's the thing is everybody's an individual when it comes to this. I remember, for me, the thing that was great was when I started coming to Nashville in 1980 because I had done all of Jimmy Bowen's records in LA. So I used to do like Anthony Newley and Dean Martin and all these kind of things. But when Jimmy Bowen moved to Nashville and took over Capitol, he called me and he said, would you like to come down here and do any work? And I said, I'd love to. But I remember when he used to call me and we did like all the early Reba and Patty Loveless and Susie Boggess and Vince Gill and all those people, he would book us for 6 days of tracking. And we would work a solid week on the tracks. Then all of a sudden it was 5 days. Then it was 4 days. And when it finally got down to where I was doing like Laurie Morgan and stuff, and it was 2 days and we were cutting like 14 tracks, then it was a different vibe completely at that point. And I loved coming there. The quality of players in Nashville is staggering.
Yeah.
Right.
Michael Rhodes is a dear friend of mine,
He's great.
I love Michael and just so many guys and working with Brent Mason and all those cats. But because of budgets and stuff, things getting concise, and there wasn't the time to really experiment or stretch things out. So you would end up locking into what you knew was really good formula, and you could get the thing done really quick and in and out efficiently. And I never minded like the 10, 2, and 5 or whatever the schedule would be on things like that, because that's what it is. So you're working towards that. But when the days started becoming more and more concise, then suddenly the time that you would have spent trying to take it to that next level to make it really unique and special wasn't there anymore. So you were just cutting, what you knew was going to, and, with Clint Black, all these guys, I mean, we were cutting a lot of hit records, but it was a little frustrating at times because you wish you could have said, can we just do one more take? But there wasn't really room for it. We were moving to the next tune.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to take us back a little bit here. Mentors among us. So going from garage band to playing in bars to playing on major festivals and then playing on stadiums. So Josh, I'm going to just flip a little bit because I know a lot of people who are watching want to know what's the step by step. And so we're going to go through just a process. Josh, what was your experience from beginning to play drums to playing, because you toured for a small piece of time? Tell me how did that occur in Nashville?
Well, at first, when I first started playing back in Pennsylvania, I started off with a pop punk band. I was probably about a year and a half into playing. I basically was self-taught. A lot of records. I'm sure Lee and Herman could go on that too, on learning records, when they're young, to where you start playing in bands and such like that. But I played a bunch of shows with that band back in Pennsylvania, and then moved to Nashville, and then played, in various bands. Then I started doing some artist work, going out and playing with different artists and playing in different states and such. But I think that basically it was getting to Nashville and then understanding Nashville, which I'm still learning about Nashville, and I've been here, I think 8 years now. But being self-taught, I mean, I've had about 3 or 4 lessons throughout my career, but being self-taught is definitely, it's a little harder because, I didn't understand music theory. I didn't understand the Nashville number system. I didn't know any of that until I started playing with Nashville artists. And a buddy of mine, Ryan, who is a bass player, was the one who ended up getting me into that kind of groove and going out and doing those things with artists and stuff. Instead of just being in one band. I mean, I've been in 2 bands at a time, 3 bands at a time, and that itself gets overwhelming. But I mean, it's definitely coming to Nashville was a big eye opener to music as a full spectrum and not just drums.
Yeah, now you know where the good hot chicken is, right?
Oh yeah. Bolton's hot chicken has some of the best hot chicken.
Hot chicken people. As an honest observation, the love of music and sticking with it and showing up and carting in your gear as you begin. And so, because this is Mentors Among Us, Herman and Lee have gotten to a different place in your life. I want the people to hear. I want everybody who's listening. And by the way, we have some people in the chat room. KT Productions. Hey, John, Greg, and Nance. How are you doing, guys? I just want to give an understanding that what does it take to when you cart in your drums, Herman and Josh. Okay, Josh, you're at one place in your life, whether it's going into a studio experience or if you're at a festival.
Mhm.
Herman, you may be, well, in a different place, but you may be carting in, let's just say you showed up for Cat Beach's experience and you had to cart in all your drum. I want you guys to, and maybe just tag team off of it, talk about what it takes to actually bring all, nobody knows. Most people don't understand what it takes to bring in your talent, your experience.
Well, it took me a while here in Los Angeles to say find cartage, that whole thing of, first of all, I just had a 4-piece drum set. So, I mean, for me to set that up was nothing. When I started getting calls to do double sessions is when I had to join. I went to Drum Paradise, which is it's in Nashville, but it was started here in LA. And I had to have 2 drum sets for one day. And so, and that was a big deal for me. That was something that was kind of incredible because, I came from playing in my uncle's organ trio where I had to not only cart my own drums, but I had to help with the B3 and the Leslie up the stairs and down, so all of that. But when I came to LA, it was humbling, because there were a lot of amazing players, and who was I to sit back and charge someone $260 both ways to cart my stuff, Now, when I got there, it was amazing. I loved it. And now I'm on the other side of that, meaning that people are not willing to pay. They'll pay me a little extra in order to cart my own drums. And once again, I'm back to playing a 4-piece kit again. Whereas, when I had my cartage, there was 2 drum sets or 3 drum sets. And then I had my my triggering, I had my rack, I had all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Now it's just playing drums again, thank God, and I remember even doing that session where, the young producer, he has Pro Tools, and I came in and have a kick, snare, hi-hat, and a ride cymbal. And I was only there to lift the choruses, so
Right.
Just that kind of thing. It pays to be humble, and I'm thankful to get any kind of work, So and I'm an able-bodied individual, and I have a band, so I now cart my own stuff. Unless, Kat, you have this incredible budget where you can pay for my
Just
carting.
wait. Album number 2 is going to be even more traumatizing than the first, guys.
Got 3 rolling pads.
Right. Exactly.
Party pants. I'm going to shut my pile. Anyways, so going from, and so since I know this as a performer, I know what it's like to perform for 1,000 people, but I also know what it's like to perform for one person in a bar. And for everybody listening, Lee, Herman, Josh, have you been there? Have you been in that moment where it's one person in the bar and you just got to give it all?
How about no person? Just the band and maybe the owner or the bartender.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like when I started touring with Judith Owen, we would be like in the north of England and we'd be playing in pubs. And this was just, 4 years ago or 5 years ago. And there would be like 30 people in the pub. And I'd have some guy come up to me and he goes, God, last time I saw you, you were in Wembley Stadium. What are you doing here? I said, I'm playing music. Are you enjoying it? He goes, well, yeah. I said, done. It's good. I don't ever look at the size of a gig. Some of the most enjoyable work I've ever played is small clubs. I mean, there's something incredible about going out and playing. We just finished this Phil Collins tour through South America and Europe. We were playing 70, 80,000 people a night, in stadiums. But you're still basically connecting with about the same amount of people in that audience as you would see in a club. There's just that first couple of rows is really where your eye contact is. The rest of it is like a patchwork quilt. So the numbers are kind of meaningless on that level. It's good for the business side of the people, but as a player, I've never really cared. And some of the best gigs I've ever done were sound checks, where we just honked, man. It locked in at sound check, and then when the room filled with people, the sound changed in it, and it wasn't quite as cool. And you just don't know. I mean, what you have to do is you bring the joy of playing with you, no matter what the circumstances are. You don't look at it as an ego trip, like, well, man, you're only playing, to 30 people, and I'm playing in an arena. That's
well, and whether it's 70,000 people, 7,000 people, 700 people, 7 people.
Yeah.
You come with the same energy. You come, I mean, you know what I'm saying? You come meaning to play.
Yeah.
So,
same game.
Yeah. Because I'm gonna get that $100 regardless.
Exactly.
Right.
And I still haul, when I'm doing sessions, I bring my own gear.
Yeah.
I've got a bass amp that's on that has like a luggage thing on it, an EA amp that's got, so I can roll it like a suitcase, and I'll bring a couple of basses with me and a bag with a couple of pedals if I might need something. And it's a done deal. I'm not dragging out mountains of stuff, and I don't have lots and lots of gear. And I find what I've got is what I got. Everything I need in my entire career is sitting in my garage.
That's great. So I'm gonna just throw something at you guys both. This is a Herman Lee moment. Josh, you'll like this because we spoke of this the other day. So Lee.
Yes, dear.
Judith Owen.
Yeah.
One statement.
Brilliant.
Okay. Herman. Teresa
Yes.
James and the Rhythm Tramps. One statement.
The real deal.
Okay. Both of you guys, both of those performers I love, and I have just been listening to on repeat during my wonderful downtime of, oh my gosh, how do I get out of 720 square feet? So when I go out on my walks or my runs, I'm listening to both of them. Both of you have the utmost respect for these performers, and I can see why, but I'm it's interesting because both of you have played for some incredible stadium performers, and I'm hearing the gut of Teresa and Judith, and I'm wondering what it is about them that you guys I'm just going to say interfaced with, because I know what I felt about them, but you guys, both of you said the real deal when I spoke to you in the past about them. And so I wonder if you could give just a little, Herman, what is it about Teresa and the Rhythm Tramps that, first off, I love them, and Judith, I love them. So, but tell me.
Well, first of all, I've had the pleasure of working with Judith and with Teresa. I've worked with both of those artists. Yeah, I'm on Judith's 12 Arrows record. I think that's what it is. But the thing with Teresa James, she's a down home Texas girl, Houston, Texas, and that's where I'm from.
Yep.
Her husband is from there as well, and so the music that she's one of those girls that grew up singing in bars. And you can hear it. I mean, she sang in bars. She drank Jack Daniels and smoked cigarettes and played in bands that were too loud.
Yeah. And
she learned how to navigate, and she learned how to kick ass. Not only is she, a warm soul, and just that whole down home Southern Texas personality thing comes out, but she sings. It's like for instance, this is some years ago, about, almost 30 years ago now. And I've been in the band for just about that long. And she's pregnant. She has one kid on her hip. And she had just finished doing 3 sessions. I mean, she's one of those singers that has sang on everyone's record. And she's done a lot of TV theme shows and things of that nature. So she is, she's running ragged. Her hair's all over her head. She really looks hammered. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then she stands behind that microphone and that piano and she starts singing, and you just want to marry her.
Yeah.
Because it's the real deal.
Yeah.
It's her soul. It's her heart. It's you know, we did that thing that I sent you. We did that not very long ago, and we hadn't played in a while. And it did my heart and soul good just to be in the you know, the same area with them, to sit down and play that music. And when I say play that music, it's the understanding of the swinging straight eighth note and playing, you know, when we all understand the Texas Louisiana thing.
Yes. Yes.
You know, it's like we all know what's going on. So it much like when Lee and Kunkel sit down, you know, next to each other and start playing, and the marriage that they have. That's the same thing with Teresa James and her husband Terry Wilson, who writes all the songs, and he's the bass player in the band.
Oh wow!
Unreal. It's you can feel when she sings. You can. I love that. You can literally you can feel. It was in the Pink. I've been listening to you guys live. It was a couple of years ago, and I'm walking and I'm like,
right.
The
Right.
entire neighborhood hears me singing. It's not so great because she sounds great, but
she tugs at everyone's heartstring. I mean, it is just
really
amazing.
does.
I'm amazed that not more people know who she is, you know, and she's working on that. But I mean, you know,
and I want to help with that, because the truth is, when it got me gutturally, I know that there are a lot of people like me who just we need that gut release. We need that. It's a female thing, and so I'm not going to knock on you guys, but we need that, and sometimes it's a full band thing for you guys. It just felt that way, and I'm just gonna say we toss it over to Judith Owen, and there's some things that she's gone through, and you can feel both Teresa and Judith have gone through some things, and they're willing to share them. And you guys have brought extraordinary music to the table, and so that we can open up for whomever, not just females, but whomever is listening. We get to feel, I mean, for me to be jogging and crying, that's ridiculous, but it feels right. Okay. So, okay, that sounds bizarre, but I'm jogging, I'm in the middle of a quarantine and whatever's going on, and I'm crying. That's bizarre, but thank you. Right. But thank you.
Yeah.
Right? And Leland, thank you, because I'd like to say this to Judith and Teresa, but they're not friends of mine. I don't know them personally, but for all that's gone through, thank you. The light under the door. I think
it comes down to songs. I mean, you know, they sing the hell out of their songs, and it's heartfelt. And you know, Judith, you know, she sits down behind that piano and she starts singing, and with her sense of humor and with all of that, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
It's real, you know. And I think we were talking earlier. That's what I'm missing. You know, I'm missing the soul, you know, of music these days. You know, and so, you know, both Teresa and Judith, they sing from their heart, and they mean it, and you can feel it.
Yes.
I mean, it's like that thing when, you know, it's like, I'm sure you can remember, you know, when you first heard your favorite song from the Eagles, and, you know, and you knew where you were when you first heard it. And, you know, when you go to the concerts and they sing that song, that's what people are feeling.
Transporting.
Yeah. You know, so boom.
Yeah.
That's the way it is with them.
I'll tell you, the first time I heard Teresa, man, it tore my heart out. She's so ridiculously great. It's unbelievable. And I think we were doing some show, and she was one of the artists that came on and sang a song. And I just sat there looking at her, just going, man, this is such a bad little puppy here. Just amazing. And Judith is the same thing. Judith brings, like, if you took Joni and Carole King and all these people and rolled them into a ball and put them on steroids, you'd end up with this character. And every day we're doing a cappella videos and stuff, and we're working on 2 new albums with her. at this point. And she's a force of nature. I mean, she writes a song a day, and they're all good songs. It's unbelievable how productive she is, and what a character, because she's married to Harry Shearer. Yeah. And you know, so you've got the Simpsons and Spinal Tap all rolled up into that too. But yeah, she's a gifted Welsh singer, songwriter, pianist with all the angst. She always talks about the Welsh as she says they're like the Irish without the fun.
Yes. My entire bloodline is Welsh, by the way. Maybe,
perfect.
Just
yucky duck.
Yes.
But that's the beauty of these artists, is they're the real deal. They play one bar, and they've got you. They've hooked you. I mean, there's no doubt that you're going to be a fan of them the minute you hear them. And there's a number of them. And the hard part is how do you get that out there in this day and age? And that's the difficult thing. It's easy to make a record with the technology that exists now, but I work on so many projects where the after we finish it, the next phone call I get is from the people that made the record that goes, "Do you have any ideas like what we could do with this?" Everybody's looking at shows like The Voice and American Idol and all these shows, and you have so many artists now that feel a sense of entitlement, and they've never done anything.
Right.
You look at this, they're going to go from the loading dock to ordering their new Mercedes mentality. And all I think about is the years spent playing frat parties and you know, American Legion parties where we had shit thrown at us, and you know, I mean, all that stuff. I mean, you spent your years, and it's a cliche saying paying your dues, but there is an element to paying your dues.
Yeah.
And the real hard part, like when I look at LA, man, when I was young, LA was loaded with clubs, and you could go jam and meet people and hang out. There's hardly any clubs left, and if you're in a band and you want to play, you got to pay to play. So people having the opportunity to hone your craft is very difficult when there's no place for you to do it other than rehearsing. And rehearsals are a part of things, but until you sit down in front of an audience and they go, "Oh man, you guys are great," or they go, "You suck," you need to have some kind of feedback, and there's not many opportunities for feedback anymore. So it's a difficult situation. I mean, I'm, you know, in an arrogant kind of way, I'm really grateful I'm not starting at this point. I'm really grateful that I'm almost 60 years into my career at this point, and still working.
Yeah, I was even noticing the whole thing in Nashville. I mean, just in the past 2-3 years, you know, now you're having to pay for parking.
Yeah.
And I know that's sort of a big deal, but it's like, you know, I wanted to go see my friends Pete Abbott and Steve Mackey, you know, over at the Acme, whatever that place is called. Yeah, you know, and I mean, I had to pay $20 someplace to go park my car. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not the Nashville I know. You know.
Yes, the truth.
It's a tough scene. It's a real tough scene at this point.
As we were just speaking, I just wanted to touch real quick on the emotion nowadays in music itself. I think is kind of lacking, and I'm wondering if that's because people are so able to do things on their own and just put stuff out there, or just write a quick song or whatnot. When we were talking about Judith. And stuff like that, it's like their emotion is being pushed out. It's coming from the bottom of them and being pushed out to everybody else that's being able to feel it. You don't get that kind of thing like in the top 40 anymore, or even on radio. It's just kind of the same stuff being pushed back out at you. There's so many songs nowadays that kind of have the same vibe and the same. It's like one person's writing all these songs, you know, and it's like. It's a bummer that more people like Judith and stuff aren't being able to go out and be known and have their stuff felt and heard, especially in like the times that we're in now. You know, those kind of artists and stuff like that. I really wish there was a way easier for them to just go out and be able to do that stuff and be able to push their songs, their emotions, and everything else.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah.
it's a bummer, and it's almost like a and Josh, Lee, Herman, you all felt that pause, because we all know and we understand that creating a fan base that is excuse me, larger and more financially accessible is it means that you have to have money in your pocket, and there's a very different experience nowadays, and I'm profoundly frustrated with that. And the reason I brought up Teresa and the reason I brought up Judith is because they have profoundly changed me. They have made a difference in my life, and I listen to their music and I'm allowed to feel something on a raw moment. It doesn't feel like they are overproduced. It feels like you guys have done magic. All of you guys in you, not just Lee and Herman, but the entire band. It feels right to me. And so I'm bummed because I know some of the back end of the music and in the world of the music. And so that brings me to a moment. The reason I did Music Mentors Among Us is because I want the fans to understand. I want you to, and I'm speaking to the fans right now, I want you to understand what musicians go through. I want you to understand what the singer-songwriters go through. They are literally giving you their world. And most of them are paying out of their own pocket to share their world, their angst, their anxiety, their pain, their journey, their vision, their happiness, their anger. They're literally giving that to you, and with no disrespect to all the fans who are watching, you may not understand it, but they're paying for it, and they're not that they want to be of course they want to be reimbursed, but they're doing it because they love you. They're doing it because they need to. They're doing it because they feel an empowerment to share their love. The musicians are giving you their heart because they feel an empowerment to give you something to allow you to feel, period. Yeah. So the only thing I can do to give back is to share. What do drummers go through? What do bass players go through? What do guitarists go through? What do singer-songwriters go through to deliver this to you? And maybe in doing this, you have an opportunity to pay for their music. And the reason I say that is not because I'm trying to make you feel uncomfortable as fans. It's because I want you to know what they go through to give you a moment of love, pain, anger, angst, whatever. And so that's one of the major reasons and I'm stuttering across this because it's uncomfortable for me to say to fans, guys, listen, it's important for you to pay for what you love. But these musicians and artists are extraordinary, and I am grateful for them and would love for them to be able to feel blessed and human means, right? Okay, it's very, very simple. I say human means. I'm a Christian and I'm proud to be a Christian. And I say human means because it's okay to say, hey, fans, we're giving you our love, and we're producing and editing and directing and sharing everything. So I know I'm long-winded. You guys are looking at me like I'm a long-winded. I am long-winded, but it's so important to me. The entire reason I've done this is because I want the fans to see it. I want them to hear it. I want the artists to feel empowered to continue to share.
And there's definitely a lot that goes into it, musically, not only musically, I should say, but, personally, there's a lot that goes into it. It's getting, when you start, at the bottom, it's either paying for the lessons or paying for the gear. And then, you start off small. I remember I had a Percussion Plus kit. That was the first kit that I had. And it was, very cheap, but it was the way that I got started. And then I was able to bump up, and then I got at the Mapex 15th anniversary edition. but then it's, it's cymbals. And I mean, it's not only drummers, because I mean, obviously, Lee, everybody that's out there playing the instrument has to put money, they have to put time into it.
Yeah.
And it's not only the money putting into it, but if you just put the money into it and you don't take the time, then you're just you just spent money for no reason. But with that also comes going on to your own emotion and bringing that out into shows and stuff like that. Like we were talking earlier about how sound check could be one way, and then it's a different atmosphere when somebody's out there and they're watching you, because we also feed off of the crowd, so we get the emotion going through them, they get the emotion. So it's a very big spectrum that's looked at. It's not just, to me anyway, it's not just about picking up the sticks and just messing around on the drum kit. When I'm doing what I like, if I'm practicing, like obviously we all have time to practice now, but it's envisioning what I'm going to do all the way around. So it's not just sitting down and practicing. Like that's what I'm trying to say when it comes to musicians, is there's so much more that goes into it. Every move you're making with your instrument is going towards something else, and it's coming from your emotion, and it's being pushed out to everybody else. And not only the fans, but the bands too, or like if you're in sessions, Lee and Herman, I'm sure especially when they get together, and you get that one spot and you look over at each other and like you're bouncing off of each other then.
Yeah.
So the emotion is huge, but there's just so much that goes into it that I think a lot of people might not understand when it comes to musicians as a whole.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So I know we're coming to the close, but I want to give just the floor to Herman and Lee. And Josh, I'll start with you, Herman, and so I'll give it a little lead line so I don't hit you cold on this one. But if you had a moment to just talk to the fans, what would you say to them and for all of you, so you give everybody a little extra time, what would you say to them to allow them to understand really what being part of a band is, what this extraordinary journey is?
Wow. With me, and I'm somewhat emotional when it comes to playing music. And so those moments are few and far between, when the band and the artist are one, and when the band, the artist, and the audience are one, and everyone's feeling it the same way. Oddly enough, everyone's clapping on 2 and 4. But when the groove is, when there's no denying what's going on, and it kind of has that. I always say, you take 2 negative ends of a magnet, and it kind of hovers.
Yeah.
So when that feeling is there, and once again, it's few and far in between, but when that feeling is there, and you look, the artist turns around, he looks at me, and I'm crying, and we're playing, and it's all beautiful. I mean, that's what we're doing for the fans. That's what we're doing for you. It means a lot when it all comes together, So it's, I don't know. I look for those things. And I hope that the fans appreciate that, or that they can feel it too, So I don't know.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah.
Lee?
Well, I look at it from the standpoint.
I'm crying.
Hey, take it easy, girl.
Sorry, it hit me. Darn you, Herman! Doggone you!
My pleasure of the fans is the fact that if it wasn't for them, this would be my hobby, and not my profession. And to me, it's like when people have said to me, it must be so, like when I was with James Taylor, he said, you must have played Fire and Rain 10,000 times, isn't it boring? And I go, no, because every night I'm playing to somebody in that audience who's hearing it for the first time. And everything has always been fresh to me. All the touring I've done, I've never played the same song twice the same way. It could be a 3-chord tune, but every night when I play, it's a different emotional experience for me, for the audience, for the venue, for everything, for the band. And I'm really a fan-driven person. I love the fans. I make time whenever I can to hook up with people on the road, and it's a unique symbiotic relationship that we have. And I feel really very, very fortunate that I've experienced this, and that I've been able to experience some remarkable people in my life because of what I do. And I treasure it every day. Every time the phone rings for a gig, man, I'm like a kid in a candy store who's getting it for the first time. And a real quick little plug here. We've got a new band right now called The Immediate Family. But it's the cats I've been playing with for 50 years. And we're having the time of our lives out here. And we kind of look at the fans and everything as our immediate family. And that's really the whole attitude of this thing. It is just having this relationship with people. And you walk out on that stage and you just feel the energy in the room. And as soon as you start playing and you see heads moving and stuff, you just go, this is the greatest gig in the world. And again, I don't give a crap if I'm in a little tiny club that's got 75 people in it, or if I'm in a stadium. That feeling is the same no matter what. And I feel so fortunate to be part of the music community. And that's it for me. And if we've said anything at all that casts, I don't mean a negative look at this business, but the thing is, if you love music and you love playing, don't let the business get you down.
Yes.
Just you do it. We do this because we have to do this. It's almost not a choice. There's other things I could have done in my life, but this for me is the thing I absolutely love and cherish the most. So just do it. You may not be successful at it. I mean, because the odds are against anybody making it in this business, but you can still find the joy. And if you could also be in another profession and find guys and girls that you like playing with, and you could just still have bands, and you could still play just for some parties. I still take gigs playing for people's birthday parties in town and stuff, because we're playing and people are having a good time. It doesn't all have to be the A game. I'm happy with every gig's an A game to me.
I got to tell you, Lee, he did me a solid. I would put together bands and play at clubs around LA, and I sat back and I was thinking, oh, it'd be great if Lee could do this, and Dean Parks, I think. And we were playing at a place called Cafe Cordial. And I'm asking Lee if he would do this. Now, mind you, it's, if you had a 3-piece band, the guys can make a whole lot of money. Of course, I had 12 people in my band. So, and Lee was like, yeah, let's do it. And it was the greatest thing ever. And we were just playing a little bitty club, and there's Dean Parks and there's Lee Sklar, and we're playing cover tunes. Yeah. And it was amazing. I mean, to this day, people still come up. And I've become friends with Jackson Browne because of that gig.
Yeah.
So it's amazing, man. Amazing. So Lee, yeah, he preaches. He lives what he's preaching.
Love what you say. And Josh,
to the fans, any fans, no matter. I mean, I've played shows, and I'm sure Lee and Herman have too. But I've played shows, in the beginning when we were on tour. There was, 4 bands on the bill, and we were playing for each other as the bands, basically.
Nice.
There was like no promotion, for the show, and there was maybe one person in there, and no matter what, you never lose the energy. You just keep it going. Like once you get down, and once my ears are in, it's, and whether I'm hitting a track or if I'm just counting off a song, it's go time, and it's for everybody, because potentially the other bands are fans, and like I've been fans of plenty of other bands that I've played with. So, and I just getting one or two of them to come up after the show and be like, man, that was awesome. Like, you guys were tight, you know, or your playing was fantastic. Anything like that makes it all worth it to me.
Yeah.
It's that feeling of, wow, like I went and I expressed myself and I put my playing out there, and our band did the same, and we got complimented for it. It didn't matter if there was 20 people there, 2 people there, or 20,000 people there. It's just that the feeling and the energy is always brought with the fans. And I thank all the fans. I thank all the people who go out and actually support musicians and support shows, and you know, buy the merch and do everything. Like, I really enjoy that. I love the fact when I've small, you know, children come up at the end of a show and they're like, man, that was awesome, you know, and they ask me for a drumstick or something like that. And it's like, it just feels so good to me to be able to just give them a drumstick. And, you know, because I used to do the same when I was young.
Yeah.
You know, when I would go to shows and see some of my favorite bands, you know, I was always hoping to catch the drumstick when it was thrown out, you know, and it's cool to be on that side and this side of even being asked to sign the drumstick. It's just like, wow, like I absolutely loved doing this. I just love playing. I love getting on stage. I love being on stage and then getting off stage and then talking to the other people who sat there and watched you that you've never met in your life. And you might not ever see again, but you have a connection at that point. And I really enjoy that.
That's the best part.
Great.
And so I'm going to sign us off. And I am incredibly grateful. Herman, Lee, and Josh, thank you for coming on and talking tonight. And so to the performers who are watching, be 100% you. Do not be ashamed of being you. Find that inner something that is so uniquely you that you have to share it. That is what I'm finding. And when I'm hearing the gentleman tonight talk about the artists that they love the most, it's because they are uniquely them. They are willing to share their good, bad, and ugly. And so I say that to you all, do that and enjoy. I'm pausing in that because I've done that myself. But most important part, do not be afraid to find the musicians that speak your vibe, your heart, your thing. And it means that you have to look through, you have to sift through what works best for you. Find the musicians that speak your heart and love that and enjoy it and be part of it. And don't be ashamed of all of what makes you you. And I say that because back in the days of Janis Joplin, one of my icons and the people I look at and go, oh, I'm not worthy. I dig the heck out of her. Why? Because Janis just stood up there. It didn't matter what she was on or what she was going. I'm not going to knock all of that. She was 100% her, and she was raw, and she sweated, and it didn't matter it just didn't matter. And to me personally, as a performer, I love that essence. And so that's why Teresa and Judith, by the way, speak so profoundly to me, because they speak right out there in their essence when they sing. They're not afraid to just be. They're not worried about all this other stuff. So I will say that to the artists who are listening, and I know there are a lot from ISSA and other organizations who have come on tonight, be you. Be 100% you. Thank you for joining us tonight. We love you, and I'm grateful for you. And tune in next week and enjoy, and just enjoy your music, guys. And share the music, for heaven's sake. Love you. Thank you for being part of CatSpan. Thank you, Lee. Thank Herman. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We love you.
Absolutely.
Amen.
And then I wrote,